I'm going to talk about the New York State Civil Recoveries Bureau. I'm going to tell you my experiences with this group. This is a corrupt group. Basically, you don't want to ever be in the Civil Recoveries Bureau. This is a New York State agency that collects money from you if you owe money to the state. In my case, I went to a SUNY school. It was a state school, and I owed money to them. And they take over the claim after like a year. And you don't want to get involved with these people. They are very, very, very corrupt, and they don't care about how much money you owe. They will try to get every dollar that they can squeeze out of you for the rest of your life. If you owe $100, they will try to collect $10,000 from you, and they will use every trick in the book. And if you make the payments, they'll allege that you didn't or that you paid late, and the list goes on, and they'll keep tacking on massive fees. I owed like $2,700, and they wanted me to pay upwards of $10,000. Okay, so I need to write something really quick in my notes here. Okay, so here's what happened. I went to a SUNY school, and I did not file for graduation. The reason why was because of a mistake. Someone told me, oh, you know, this week you have to file for graduation. Did you file for graduation yet? I mean, in high school, you don't do that. I had absolutely no clue that I had to actually go and file for graduation. And it is January to graduate in May. And all of my friends had already graduated, so it's not like my friends we were talking about what we were doing. So I just had no clue. And I went and I saw the line, and the line was so long that I said, okay, I'll just come back on Monday. Because it was late in the day, you know, it was like 2 p.m. I saw this huge line. I said, there's no way they're going to serve me in 2 hours. I'll come back on Monday. Came back on Monday, and they said, well, the deadline was Friday. And, you know, this is back in 1994, 1995, something like that. You didn't have, they didn't give you this information. It's not like you could go on the internet and find out what the deadline is. I had to find out through word of mouth. They didn't send me a letter saying, remember, you have to file for graduation. None of that stuff. And I had gone to my counselor the previous semester, and he never told me this. I just had no clue. So when the semester ended, I got a job like 2 weeks later, and I started working. And I was working in New York City, even though my school was a couple hours away from New York City. So the school sent me a bill. Did a lousy job sending this bill. It said that I owed like $5,800. I don't remember what it was, some crazy amount of money. And I was like, the semester's only $2,700. How could I owe $5,000 something? And I called the school and I said, and you know, I was a very naive kid. I was always bullied, and I never stood up for myself. I called the school and I said, you know, I got this bill and it says I owe $5,600, but I don't owe that much money. I don't understand. I said, okay, well, take a look at it, and that was it. Then a month later, I got another bill, was again the same amount of money, like $5,600. And then I called the school and I said, hi, there's something wrong. You know, I got this bill that says I owe $5,000. And without me finishing my sentence, the woman screamed at me. She said, you have to pay. And she said it twice. And I said, no, I don't. And I hung up the phone. And at the time, I didn't understand what was going on. I figured it out like 5 or 6 years later. What had happened was, because I didn't file for graduation, the bill was for the current semester plus the future semester, which I wasn't planning on coming back. And that's why I didn't understand the bill. It was not itemized. It was only itemized the health portion, the health fee, which was like $80. So I didn't understand why I was being double billed. So then I got a letter from the New York State Civil Recoveries Bureau. And this is when the corruption begins. They contacted me, and I called them, and there was a nice woman on the phone, and I said, you know, this is what happened. I went to the school, and they said I owed $5,600. And keep in mind, at this time, I didn't know why they double billed me. And I said, you know, they billed me too much money, and I didn't understand. I don't know how much I owe. If I don't know how much I owe, how am I supposed to pay the money? And she said, well, how much do you think you owe? I said, $2,900. She said, okay, just pay that. And I said, well, I don't have $2,900. How much do you have? I got $800 a month. She said, okay, pay $800 a month. That would be for 3 months. I would pay $800 and then pay $500. And I said, okay, well, can you fax me like a document that says that we agreed on this? She said, no. And the way she said it was really like she was lying. You know what? The way she responded was like she was being dishonest. And at the time, I was confused by the way she responded. But if she had said that to me today, I would have told her, lady, if we don't have a document in writing that says I'm going to pay you $2,900 to settle this matter, I'm not giving you any money until we got that in writing. She knew she was going to rip me. She did not believe me. I don't know if she didn't believe me over the phone or she just intended to rip me off, but they did eventually rip me off, and I'll explain how. First of all, I wrote them a handwritten letter, so I didn't have a copy of it, explaining basically the same thing that I told you. So I sent in my first $800 payment, and then I got a bill saying that I owed like $6,000, and I was like, I don't owe $6,000. I agreed to pay $2,900, and when you remove the $800 I paid, that's $2,100. Why is it saying like $6,000? And what they did was they took my $800 and they claimed that the check arrived a day past the deadline, which we didn't have a signed written agreement, so there's no deadline. And they charged me a $750 legal fee. And I contacted them and I said, I'm not paying you a $750 legal fee. And this was the secretary, the woman who answered the phone. And the way she talked to me was like she was some sort of a lawyer. And she said, you're going to pay this money whether you like it or not. She talked to me like she was about to put me in jail. She didn't talk to me like she was a secretary who didn't know my situation, or she said, oh, can you give me a case number? She just said, you're going to do what we tell you to do. And at this point, I said, these people are crooks. Why is this woman saying this? She doesn't even know what I'm complaining to her about. In fact, I think that what happened was I didn't even tell her what my name was, and she was telling me that I had to pay the money. And I said, there's something wrong with this organization. So then they started sending me a letter once a month, and it was a standard letter. It said that I had agreed. It said, you have failed to pay the amount that you agreed to, and it would always have a different number. Sometimes it would say $3,000, sometimes it would say $6,000, sometimes it would say $10,000. It was going up and down every month. And then it had a list. It said, you have to answer this questionnaire about all the property that you own. And they wanted me to tell them all the furniture I owned, what my address was, any computer equipment, all of my bank accounts, and I never responded to any of that. And then they had some sort of a weird legal agreement that I don't remember what it said, but it was a couple pages long, and I have stacks of these documents. And I wrote to every state senator, everyone in this New York State legislature, which has got to be like a couple hundred people. It cost me like $50 to send all these letters out. And I wrote to the dean of every SUNY university, and I got 2 letters back. One of them was from a dean in maybe Westchester or New Paltz, and he said that he would help me in any way he could. And then another one was from a senator, and he said that other people have had the same problem, but he never responded to me after that because he said he was busy. And then I wrote, my own school responded, and basically they accused me of lying. And they repeated basically what New York State does. They said, you went to the school, you owe this amount of money, you were told you have to pay this amount of money, you didn't pay, you were charged this amount of money, you failed to pay this, you failed to pay that. You know, they could care less about what really happened. Now, there was another issue that happened, was that they took money, because I was living in New York State at the time, they froze the assets of my bank account. And I looked up the laws, and I was unemployed at the time. That money was my unemployment money. And they're not allowed to take unemployment money from you. It took me a month to get my account unfrozen, and I had to make like 30 phone calls, and I had to speak to, I spoke for hours. I called the New York State Insurance Fund, the school, my bank, and there was another group, some government office. There were 3 different offices, and everyone I said, you have to speak to this person, you have to speak to that person, you have to speak to this person. They all just pointed fingers. The bank said I had to speak to whoever sent them the letter claiming the hold on the bank, which was the state. The state said I had to, they didn't care, that they would only do something about it if I pay them in full. And, it was just a circular thing. And I got to the point where I was crying with the person on the phone at the bank. And I said, I am unemployed. I have no money. I will not be able to pay my rent. I don't have money for food. I only have one deposit in my bank account. The bank statement shows that this money was from the New York State Insurance Fund. This is against this rule. And the guy finally said, okay, I'll do something about it. And the bank lifted the hold on my money. And New York State ended up getting like $1,500 from me by my tax returns. And from that point onwards, I just said, I'm going to make sure I never have a tax refund ever again with New York State, which I did. And I said, I removed all of my bank accounts from New York State at that point. And I said, I will have no trace and no ties, no assets in New York State. And I remember going to Pennsylvania to open a bank account. And I said, that's it. I am done with New York State. I had written them so many letters and made so many phone calls. These people are insane and they are corrupt, and they will get away with it. Anyone who preaches big government and government solves problems doesn't know the truth. These people are corrupt. Human beings are corrupt, and they will always exploit you. You have no power. Whether it's big business or big government, you are just a pawn with no power. And all the senators and congressmen who did nothing for me, and I wrote letters to the governor, to the attorney general, all of them. And Eliot Spitzer was the governor at one point. He was the attorney general at another point. They just didn't respond. And there was another governor. The guy, I know it was 2001 because it was during September 11th. He was a Democratic governor. Rudy Giuliani was a Republican. I don't remember what the guy's name was. These people are all corrupt. And you know what, Eliot Spitzer, didn't he end up going to jail for corruption?